Hi everyone and welcome to the new video. In the previous video I explained how you can publish the radiation data to a public GMCMap server, and today we will do an opposite task. I will show how you can read and analyze the GMC data even you don't have any radiation detector at all. It can be fun if you are interested in programming, data science and physics. And as a bonus, you will be able to show the radiation level on your smart home screen even if you don't have a radiation detector. Without further ado, let's get into it. The first and simple question is, why should you know the radiation level data? And there are two answers for that. First is idealistic. If you just love physics and data science, it is an interesting thing to do. You can get a lot of interesting data there about our world around us. And second is pragmatic. Different events can happen in the world, and maybe you would like to see the radiation level near your house. And this site provides this opportunity. In theory, if you have a smart home, you can even trigger the alarm if something happens and the radiation level is increasing. But before we begin, I will briefly explain what the GMCMap is. GMCMap is a public map supported by the GMC manufacturer. This company is making their own radiation detectors. These detectors are cool, I have one and I am using it. And this video is not sponsored, I just like it. If you can see, there are different models available. I personally have this one. And GMCMap is a public map supported by volunteers. If you have a radiation detector, you can upload the data to a GMCMap, or you can use your DIY solution to upload the data as explained in the previous video. And this data provided by volunteers is also available to everyone. For example, I can zoom the map, I can select every station I want, and I will see the current data and also the historical data. Of course, this server is supported by volunteers, so this data is not guaranteed, but practically it is almost always possible to find the station near you. And if you want this data, the important parameter here is the station ID. So when you find the station nearby, you can copy this ID. And now let's open Jupyter Notebook and let's start with the analysis. Here I opened the Visual Studio Code, and as the first thing, I will show how you can capture the current data. If you never used Visual Studio and Jupyter Notebook, it is a cool thing. It's like REPL on steroids. It's interactive IDE where you can type the code and you can immediately run it and see the output, and you can run the cells again. So if you never used it before, it's pretty cool for data science approach. And now I will show how you can get single data from the GMCMap. This is a web request, so I will use a requests library for that. And our first code will be simple. We will just send the request to the GMCMap. And as we can see, for this particular station, I received a timestamp when the data was arrived. We can see the CPM value, which stands for count per minute. If you don't know what is it, I recommend you to watch the previous video. You can see ACPM, which is average CPM, and you can see the radiation value in microsieverts per hour. As we can see, the reported time in this MST time zone, so first I need to convert this. I will add the datetime parser. These are my values I'm going to use. And interestingly, MST is not a standard name, so I need to specify the time zone for it. And when I know the offset, I can easily convert the data to my local time zone. And now I can print it and I see the correct data. Attentive viewers may ask why I hard-coded the values, and indeed the more flexible approach will be to use the data like this. But the thing is, I tried and it did not work, and apparently these radiation detectors just have a hard-coded time zone that was specified by the user. As we can see, it is a public server, it does not need an API key or subscription or something like this. But of course, you must be a good guest and you should not overload this with too many requests. And practically it doesn't make sense because the data on the GMCMap is updated about every 5 minutes or something like this. So be a good guest and request the data not more often than once per 10 minutes, for example. Using this approach, you can always get the current data. As an example, you can see the radiation value and you can see the last update time. This video is more focused on data analysis. If you just want integration with a smart home, there are probably plugins for Home Assistant. Or if you want to see it in more details, write in the comments below and maybe I will make a separate video. And now I will continue with the data analysis. And interestingly, Pandas has internal tools for that. You don't need to set any web scraper or something like this. For example, I have the station ID and I have the URL. I can run the page, and as we can see, Pandas will automatically do all the job for us and we get the data. If I want to get several pages, I need to use a parameter current page, and I created a helper method getGMCPage. And now if I want to read several pages, I can do it like this. As we can see, I'm calling this method in the loop, and I'm using time sleep not to overload the server. Let's see how it works. Of course, I need to wait a bit. And as we can see, we have the data. We downloaded 600 rows. Of course, the process is slow, so as the last step, I recommend you to save the data in CSV. First, it's better for the server, and second, it works much faster when you have the preloaded data. Using this approach, I collected several CSV files, and now let's see how we can use them. Okay, out of camera I saved several CSV files. The process took a bit time, obviously. And now I will create a helper method to upload the data from file. As we can see, the logic here is simple. I read CSV file. I use parse dates parameter to specify that this column is a date. And I will also rename the column to a timestamp, so it's more convenient. And now using this method, I can upload data to the data frame. As a first step in data processing, when we have unknown data, let's see its distribution. And here I will use plotly library for that. White plotly, by the way. Usually I'm using matplotlib, and it's a cool library. But as we can see, I have 94,000 records, and matplotlib doesn't work well for these amounts. Plotly is much better for such datasets, and it's much more efficient. For the histogram, it's not really critical, but in general, it's a good approach and it's a good library. Let's see how it works. First, I need to import plotly, obviously, and then I can plot the histogram with one method. As we can see, here is specified the width and the height and the number of bins. I also updated the title a bit so it looks better, and here we can see the result. So what can we get here? As we know, the radioactive decay is practically random. We have a background radiation which is never zero, and for this particular sensor the values is about 15 counts per minute. It means that the Geiger-Müller tube detects 15 particles per minute, and this is like an average. You should be aware that different Geiger-Müller tubes have different sensitivity. So if you have a more sensitive tube, you have a bigger value, and it doesn't mean that it's more radioactive. Usually you have a special parameter to convert the counts per minute to a microsieverts per hour. But as we can see, we have a clear normal distribution, which looks nice. As we can see, the histogram works. Let's go forward. And now I will show how we can preprocess and draw the data so it will look more beautiful. The radioactive decay itself is random, and I want to show the data and also its average. Let's see how we can do this. First, I will create the method to preprocess the data frame and to apply the moving average. First, I will make a copy of the existing data frame because I will change the values. It turned out that some radiation detectors can be broken and sometimes they produce wrong values like outliers. First, I remove and interpolate these values. Then I will calculate the window length for my average. For example, I want to show the data with an average of 1 hour. And here is the example of my timestamps. So I calculate the difference between two records, and then I know how much time passed. I need to know how many counts I will use. And now I can apply the average filter. I need to import this method as well. This is the effective way to use the smoothing filter, as we will see. Now I can drop the column that I don't need anymore. And as a last step, I will resample the data to 10-minute intervals. This will allow us to draw it more efficiently and to compare the values from different sensors. And now let's see how I can draw this. This is actually easy. I will use a line method to draw the line, and I will use scatter to draw the raw dots. As we will see, I will use this smoothing filter output. And now I will have a figure that I can draw. Let's see how it works. First I'm loading the data, then I specify the date interval, and then I can draw it. Let's see if it works. And as we can see, it works well. As a bonus, as we can see, this graph is interactive. I can hover the mouse and I can see the values. I can adjust the graph a bit, I can remove some extra titles, I can adjust the colors. As we can see, it's much better and it's cleaner. Interesting way with this approach, I can download data from two cities and I can compare it. For example, I can load the second data frame and I can see the values. As an example, I can increase the range. As we can see, there are some downtimes. For example, this station was offline for some period, which is normal because these stations are supported by volunteers. And this is probably downtime of the GMCMap server, or maybe the data was not saved for this interval. I was hoping to see some data like a solar activity, but here we can see nothing. In theory, if there is a radiation peak on two stations, then we can confirm that it's not a random glitch. As we can see, at this time no radiation anomalies were detected, but with several graphs we can see it if something happens. Now let's see how we can detect anomalies in more details. Okay, at this point we are able to draw the graph, but apparently if we have too much data, for example for 1 or 2 years, it's very hard to detect it manually. Let's automate this approach. And I will use a very simple method for that. I will show how to find the data that is higher than a specific threshold, and I will show how we can inspect this. As we can see, the approach is simple. First I have a threshold, then I have a part of the data frame where the values are higher than a threshold, then I have a part of the data frame where values are lower than a threshold, and then I find the place where these values combine, so where the values switch from low to high. And I can run the code, and I see that there are no peaks here. As we can see, this sensor didn't detect any anomalies, the radiation level was normal. As we see here, the average radiation value is about 0.1 microsieverts, but the radiation decay is random, so sometimes it can be higher. I will set a threshold to 0.2, and as we can see, 4 peaks were detected, but obviously it's hard to find them manually. And now let's draw this data. And for that I will create a helper method, draw data peak, and as we can see, it just draws the data frame with the line. And I also draw a horizontal line, and technically that is it. Using this method is actually simple. I need to iterate all the peaks I have found, and when I have the peak time, I get a window 60 minutes before and 60 minutes after. Then I'm extracting the part of the data frame and I can draw it. Let's see how it works. As the title of the graph, I'm using the timestamp. As we can see, the result is interesting. Normally the radiation level is about 0.1 microsieverts, but 4 peaks were detected where the radiation level is more than 0.2 microsieverts. It's like 2 times higher than the average. And here we can see 4 timestamps when it happened. Obviously it's not a real radiation anomaly, it's just a normal distribution, sometimes it happens. As we can see, no serious anomalies were detected, but the approach works. And you are welcome to investigate other datasets as well. Now you have tools for that. Now let's go forward. I will show how we can visualize low frequency changes like seasonal ones. Okay, at this moment we were able to detect the peaks. This is a good approach if the anomaly happens, like an unusual peak or solar activity or something like this, maybe UFO flight nearby. But what if we want to change a low frequency changes? For example, the radiation level increased to 1-2%. How can we do this? I did several tests and it turned out that the most efficient approach is to draw a heatmap, and let's see how it works. First I will create a method show heatmap. As a first step I am filtering the dates. The next part is a bit tricky. I want the heatmap to start on Monday, so I need to calculate the first Monday. I want the heatmap to start on Monday, so I will discard the data before it. I want the heatmap to have an hour resolution, so it's also a bit of simple math to calculate the hours. I have a day cycle, for example if it's a week it's 7 days. Then I will create the values to draw the ticks, because I want to know the day number. And now I can create a table using this data. Let's see how it works. And as we can see, it works. Here is specified the number of days to 7, so we have a horizontal value to 1 week, 7 days. As we can see, this data frame has a date from 2025 to 2026. And as we can see, the result is interesting. First, the radiation level is not a white noise. We can see some higher and lower values. Obviously, it can be regional specific. Now I will try different cities. Out of the camera, I tried different data frames and I found the interesting one. As we can see, this data has values from 2025 to 2026. And during July and August, we can see a clear increase in the radiation values. This increase is not very big and normally it's not detectable. For example, low value corresponds to 0.12 microsieverts, which is normal, and the brighter values corresponds to 0.16 microsieverts, which is also normal. But still we can see a clear difference between, for example, September-October values and July-August values. So there's a certain seasonality there. We don't know why it happens, but it's interesting to see this. I encourage you to get some data and to test different data sets on your own. Now you have tools for that. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something new. Press like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I also encourage you to upload your own data. It can be interesting for science, it can be interesting to others. The source code for this tutorial is available on my Patreon page. This support helps me to make videos like that and to buy different devices like radiation detectors. Thanks for watching and see you next time.